And Corey D.B. Walker, the Dean of the Wake Forest School of Divinity, is joining us now. And kind of talk to us, is this a surprising pick, you think, because this is an American Pope for the first time?
Well, I think what we heard before and all the speculation, it reminds us that the Holy Spirit does move during the conclave, and the Holy Spirit did move with this historic selection as Pope.
Mr. Walker, so we saw, him speak on that balcony, and yes, we've heard so much he's American, born in Chicago, but we heard Spanish, we heard Italian,
yes.
We heard Latin. So what was the message there?
I think the message really is that the message is a continuation of the message that we heard from Pope Francis, and it's really a message that the church is open to all people. The church affirms the worth, value, and dignity of all humans. And of course, what Pope Leo XIV reminds us of with his unique background, as well as his unique ministry, is that we as Americans, we're part of a global, we're part of a world. We're part of many peoples. We've come together in this country in a unique way, and he reminds us of that gift, the gift that we all have.
And it's just day two. And a lot of times these things can take, months, sometimes in some cases even years. What do you think the significance is that they came to this conclusion so easily and so quickly?
Well, I don't think we can, I don't think it's a temporal issue here. I think really it's what the conclave is about. There was a lot of prayer going into the conclave. There was a lot of prayer during it, and a lot of prayer as we see now. So what you're seeing really is the continuation of the historic nature of what happened today, the election of a pope to which the entire world has given all of their wonders, splendor, and joy, and most importantly, a day where we as Americans can be proud, but we're proud and joyous along with the rest of the world. One
last question for you. Pope Francis was seen and applauded for his progressive moves when it came to the Catholic Church. What do you see here with Pope Leo? We know there's that connection to missionary work in Peru. Do you think that the church will be progressive with him in the path forward, or return to more conservative roots?
Well, he's taken the name of Pope Leo XIV, coming out of Pope Leo XIII, which is our social justice Pope. He was appointed a cardinal by Pope Francis, and his ministry is one that is tremendous in terms of always reminding us about the poor and the marginal. And that's some of the first words he led with, those words from Pope Francis. So it's not so much if he's conservative or progressive. In many ways, it's how we continue to hear the gospel in the world, and how the church, the Catholic Church, continues to preach that gospel and enable us to build a better world together.
Corey Walker, Wake School of Divinity, we appreciate your time and your insight today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.